Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have G Janice Miller. We're going to be discussing her amazing book, Critical Thinkers. Now, it's available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. But people, if you want to gather everything that Janice has in store, well, do yourself a favor and head directly to her personal site. Now, that's JaniceJonesMiller.com. There you'll find more information on Janice herself, more information on this wonderful narrative, as well as find so many other resources that she has, because Janice is doing a lot, okay? Not only has she written this book, she has another book that she's written. She is writing screenplays. I mean, listen, we could not have selected a more perfect embodiment of a person of distinction to be on our network here today. You have to head on over to JaniceJonesMiller.com to experience it all. And before we go any further, I do want to take this opportunity and point out that Janice was brought to our network by one of the best advertising firms in the business. And people, you already know who I'm talking about, Author Reputation Press. Now listen to me, if you're a writer out there, you've written a book, although now you find yourself at a dead end because, well, you need help moving the book you just wrote. Well, I'm going to give you some fantastic advice. Contact ARP. They're one of the best in the business to do it, and frankly, this is what they specialize in. So head on over to authorreputationpress.com today and gather all of the ways that their fantastic team is going to help maximize your creative endeavors. And listen, it is an absolute pleasure, okay? A true delight to have Janice here on the line. Right there in the title, I mean, there's no beating around the bush. You understand what we're discussing today. We're going to be talking about how to become critical thinkers, okay? And how to analyze and operate from that perspective. And I'm telling you, given the social media world that we currently live in, where everything is in quick snapshots, right? Everything is in just a few hundred characters. I mean, my goodness, I'm here for it in terms of, everything being instant and it's fast and all that's great. But what is it doing to our thinking process? And how is that being affected? Well, whether you want to admit it or not, it has its effect. This book is it's a quick and educational narrative meant to inspire readers to dive deeper in their thinking and deeper within their conversations. This is a wonderful resource that you're going to want to add to your shelf, and I'm going to take it a step further. It's an even better gift that you're going to want to add to someone else's. And at the end of the day, don't take my word for it. Take Janice's. It's her book. She's written it, and she's done the research, so she's going to be able to articulate everything much better than I ever could. Janice, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you for being a guest. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Benji. Thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. The pleasure is all ours. We're truly looking forward to this. I think what you're embarking upon here is needed. Given where we're going in this society and how technology is advancing, although it doesn't seem like our mindset is advancing with it, right? It seems like that's regressing while technology is advancing. So we're looking forward to this discussion and what you've put down on the pages. Now, before we go into your book, Janice, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Sure, Benji. I have 4 decades in corporate business, doing accounting, finance, business development, fraud investigation, and then that's my business side. On my personal side, I have always had a lot of interest in the scriptures. I've taught Bible classes my entire life, my adult life. So I blend the business background with the scripture background when I'm writing in order to tell a story.
Let's go right into it, because I was going to ask if you can go into further elaboration of how those two things are blended. But better yet, Janice, the anchor is all about your fantastic book, Critical Thinkers. Tell us a little bit more about it.
The book is really about the importance of developing the skills to be able to evaluate topics. How can you detect error in a topic, or if you're being manipulated by someone, or if you have gathered biases, mental biases, that when information comes into your brain, that it actually is skewed. You're not seeing things as they really are. You're not seeing them accurately because they're being filtered through biases that make the information not an accurate picture. Mm-hmm. So that is part of what the book is about. It's also looking at what critical thinkers do differently than other people. I've got some very interesting stories in there about some news articles that have come out, and some of these are from many years ago, but it takes the information and it really dissects it and looks at it in detail, and I think it really helps us to think through some things, maybe stirs up our thinking a little bit.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be easy. I wanted it to be a fast read because I know people are very busy. So I wanted something that would inspire the reader to think, and then hopefully after they read through it, they think a little bit about it, and then they go back and refer back to it time and time again. That's what I've had people to tell me, is that they'll read it, lay it down, go back and read it again, and that they start thinking about the information at that point.
Mm-hmm. Janice, talk to us about inspiration, because this could have very easily been something that you comprised and kept on your personal shelf, or something that you verbally told those around you, but you took it a step further and published it for the masses. What inspired you to do that?
Well, over the last 3 decades in particular, global authorities have been raising concerns about the decline of critical thinking skills. Maybe it's the busyness of our lives, the volume of things that come at us daily. Our brains have to take in all this information, organize it, and then process it. And it has resulted in shallow thinking or fragmented thinking. Yeah. So, it's happening in every aspect of our life. It's happening in our business life, our personal lives, our spiritual lives. So the purpose for the book and the inspiration for the book was to address this topic, from a general standpoint and from a spiritual standpoint. When I was doing fraud investigation, it was interesting to me to see how easily people can be manipulated. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to emphasize things like how necessary it is to start with accurate data, and then turn that data into information and then into knowledge so that we gain understanding. And I'm continuously having discussions with colleagues about the importance of moving beyond the surface level of things into the deeper meaning of things, asking who, what, where, when, and why. And also asking the question, how do I become an effective decision maker? How do I remove obstacles or biases in my thinking that would prevent me from seeing things accurately and that would result in me making decisions based on inaccurate data?
Yeah. Thank you very much. And what a wonderful segue that you've established, because the next place that I wanted to go to is any tips that you can offer to our listening audience members. Now, people, I mentioned it to you already, okay? If you want to gather all of the helpful information, well, there's no getting around it, okay? Amazon, Barnes & Noble, JaniceJonesMiller.com. Head on over there today and purchase copies of your book. But while we have you here on the line, any helpful tips that you can offer as an extra teaser to our listening audience about what to expect when they purchase your book?
Yes. One of the things, I spent some time going into the various types of categories of questions that critical thinkers understand and use. The first category is opinion questions, where there are a lot of right answers. Mm-hmm. For example, what is your favorite color, a flavor, or football team, or your brand of sneakers? So that's opinion questions. Number 2 category are knowledge questions, where there's only one right answer. For example, what side of the ledger does a debit go on? Since I've got a finance background, that's one that would come to mind. Or how much is 2 plus 2? And then the third category are judgment questions, where there are a number of possible answers. Some are better than others. So how do I develop my thinking skills so that in that category of judgment questions, I reach the best answer? Because there are numerous answers. Yeah. That's one of the areas I was looking at. Another thing that I was thinking about, too, are, there have been some articles, and these articles have always been interesting to me, about people who have sold something at a garage sale that was worth millions, and they sold it for like $2 or whatever because they didn't realize the value of that item. Mm-hmm. And so I've got some very interesting real life examples of those things in the book. And the purpose of putting that in the book is when we are not reaching our full potential, we're basically, taking what our worth is and we're giving it to the world for just a small fraction of what it's really worth. Yeah. And so I go into that section, and developing these critical thinking skills helps us to make decisions to help us to get to the very best.
Two-part question here with this next one, Janice. But first and foremost, who would you say is your intended reader with this book? And two, what is the main message that you hope that they take from it after completing it?
The main readers would be really two categories of people. One would be anyone who has a concern about the lack of critical thinking skills in our society today. I think it's a situation where many people are concerned about this when they look and see where we are. Another one is a person that is concerned about the level of deception that's in our world today. How do we know if somebody is trying to deceive us? And then the message that I'd like to get to the reader is the importance of developing these critical thinking skills, not to be afraid, but examine things closely, ask questions, turn over the rocks, get to the root cause analysis of something. Because so many times when I'm asking a person a question that involves data or it involves information, they're basically repeating information they've heard someone else say, and I ask them where they got the support for their information, and they don't have it. They haven't gotten any support. They haven't read for themselves. They haven't turned over the rocks and examined it for themselves. They've just taken someone else's word for it.
I want to get to the heart of this, and I think you've already answered it in a number of different ways, but, listen, Janice, you know what happens when you assume, so I'm not going to do that to you, okay? I have you here on the line. Let's go directly to the source. Out of everything that you've compiled, what would you say is the reason why it is important to be critical thinkers?
It's important because we need to be able to be passionate about our lives. And if we have not dug to the root cause analysis of our own lives, and if we're not dealing with information where we know that the data is accurate, that we're intaking and we're making decisions based on that, we can't get passionate because we don't have a root for anything. We're not connected. Right. It's like we're just hanging in midair. We've got to get to the place that we really have a solid connection to something to be able to make decisions accurately.
Love that answer. Janice, we've discussed so much information today. Before I let you go, is there anything that we haven't yet discussed that you really want to make sure our listening audience is aware of?
I think we've pretty much covered the highlights, Benji. I really do appreciate your time today. And I would hope that, anyone reading the materials, reading the book, that they would really stop and think about what they're reading, and hopefully it will inspire them. I love it when people say something has inspired them, because then they can turn around and they can tell their story. whatever topic inspires us, there's a reason for it. It's for us to be able to turn around and tell that story.
People, listen, I'm telling you, if this interview hasn't moved you, you're asleep, okay? And you need this even more because you're clearly not thinking critically. Head on over to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, JaniceJonesMiller.com today and gather this wonderful resource. This is something that you need to have on your shelf. I could sit here and I could talk to her for hours. I have to remind myself, Benji, this is not about you. You need it. You know where you have to go. Get lost in it. Better yet, grab it for someone else so that they can get lost in it as well, because it's needed. Janice, this has been a true pleasure, an absolute honor. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Thank you, Benji. I appreciate it.